What did Palpatine think about the Baron Doe sages? Greetings again and welcome back to the archives. When Palpatine prepped to enact Order 66, it was mainly targeted at the extermination of the Jedi. The Order had been his primary target since they were currently the greatest obstacle to the Sith ruling the entirety of the galaxy. As ancient enemies, neither could live while the other survived. But as we know, there were far more Force-based religions all over the galaxy serving both the light and the dark, as well as everything in between. While Palpatine's main focus was on the Jedi, it wasn't as though he left the other organizations as an afterthought. He either recruited from the dark side orders, or kept them under heavy watch. This much we know has been confirmed. However, there is scarce information that remains about what Palpatine did with other followers of the light. One of these organizations was the Baron Doe Sages, a collection of incredibly prominent figures from the species of the Kel Dor. They were the allies of the Jedi, and Plo Koon, who had studied under them as his time as a Jedi, in order to become fully cemented in the ways of the light beyond the Jedi Order. But who exactly were the Baron Doe Sages? And what did Palpatine do about them during Order 66? Well, my friends, as always, there is one way to find out. Let's open a holocron and find out what happened to the Baron Doe Sages. The Baron Doe was an order that predated even the Jedi. Native to the planet of Doran, this collection of Force-sensitive mystics were the ones who shaped the society of the Kel Dor species. Doran was a world which lay between two black holes, making travel in or out of the planet extremely tricky. This phenomenon would have drastic impacts on the planet itself, such as the atmosphere being extremely thin and largely made up of helium. Only the Kel Dor have the ability to breathe it without the need of an oxygen mask. But where the danger of Doran truly lay was in its unpredictable and tumultuous weather patterns, which riddled the planet with powerful storms able to rip dreadnoughts straight from the sky. This is where the Baron Doe Sages came in. They focused almost entirely on their precognitive and their sensibilities. This allowed them to predict the weather patterns and to warn their people of incoming natural disasters. However, as the Baron Doe began to spend more time meditating on the nature of the Force, they found that they could see into the future. And because of this, they became even more valued to the Kel Dor society by preventing wars and stopping catastrophes long in advance. This led to many sages taking government positions and acting in a more official role on the world. Due to their strict adherence to the light side of the Force and the ways of peace, the Baron Doe Sages did not traditionally train in combat the way that the Jedi would. Only a select few of their members were chosen to become martial monks in order to protect their temple. The Sages did not consider themselves as militant as the Jedi were. Specializing in combat was only an option for their members, and the only weapons that they used were traditional wooden staffs. To them, keeping peace on the planet came in the form of judiciary justice, and their wisdom, coupled with their unwavering sense of justice, made them sought-after mediators in the Republic. When the Jedi began to rise to prominence, the Baron Doe paid little mind to them initially. Many of the sages thought the Jedi as eccentric wizards manifesting the Force in order to do magic tricks. But once the Jedi actually made contact with the Kel Dor species, the two organizations came to realize that they had a great deal in common. They traded knowledge, and from that point forward, the Baron Doe were benefactors of the Jedi. They sent many Force-sensitive beings of their species directly to the Jedi Order, one of them being Plo Koon. Of course, at some point during his training though, Plo would return to Doran in order to learn the wisdom of the Baron Doe. But as time went on, and the Jedi were viewed more and more as the default champions of the Force, the influence and notoriety of the sages were completely eclipsed, and they fell into obscurity among the stars. While still operating as the guides of Doran, their involvement with the Republic diminished, and as far as we know, the sages held no contempt for the Jedi because of this transition. They could see that the Republic needed a certain type of protector, and were content with remaining as the governors of their own people. But this fall into obscurity would actually benefit them a great deal when the Clone Wars came to a close. As Jedi were shot down in every corner of the galaxy, and the dark side prevailed, the Baron Doe Sages were completely overlooked by the Empire and Palpatine. The Emperor believed a lot of the smaller light side Force traditions were to be insignificant, and that they posed no concern. He definitely went after the warrior type traditions that were proving themselves to be trouble, but traditions such as the Ang-Ti monks, the Luca Sene, and the Baron Doe Sages weren't even an afterthought to the Sith Lord. Since they were entirely devoted to peaceful study, they displayed no combat prowess, and therefore were not seen as important. Besides, although the Keldor had a very rigid moral system, they were smart enough not to make themselves the target of the Grand Empire. The Baron Doe took advantage of this anonymity and decided to lay low for most of the Empire's reign. However, it does seem that they gained Palpatine's attention at one point upon his resurrection in the year 10 ABY. Sidious became aware of the Baron Doe through the Jedi Path book, one that he attained after the fall of the Jedi Order. Doran, much like the Mon Calamari, was one of the worlds that he staged the biggest offense on, but the New Republic was then able to repel the attack of Darth Sidious. In the aftermath of the campaign, Doran officially joined the New Republic, and upon learning that Luke Skywalker had established a new order of Jedi Knights, the Baron Doe extended an invitation to Luke, letting him know that they were willing to work with them in the future yet again. Luke's first interaction with their order wouldn't be until sometime in the year 42 ABY. This was when he and his son were following the footsteps of Jacen Solo, who had disappeared. Prior to his turn to the dark side, Jacen had ventured out away from the Jedi in order to learn as many disciplines and perspectives on the Force as possible. His journeys would eventually lead him to the Baron Doe Temple, where he learned of the sage's esoteric light side powers. There, they showed him what is known as the Hasat Dur, which translate from the Keldor language into lightning rod. This was essentially a force-based form of electrokinesis. A master of this technique could disable cybernetics, or even interfere with electronic shackles, boost the signal of comlinks even if they wanted to. This was also the backdoor method towards learning electric judgment. Plo Koon's notable ability of casting forth orange-colored lightning in a non-lethal Jedi variant meant much more to stun and disable an enemy than to kill them or torture them. Plo Koon would write that this came from drawing upon one's sense of justice. However, the type of lightning could be summoned through Hasat Dur was white in coloration and required drawing upon no emotion. Rather, it was simply a product of the technique. But also among the Hasat Dur techniques was one called the Aina Seth, which translates to dead brain. This is what Jacen Solo had spent much of his time perfecting. This is the art of suffusing one's body with low levels of electromagnetic radiation in order to make brain activity undetectable. Some years later, Luke and his son Ben Skywalker would venture to the world of Doran to trace Jacen Solo's steps and attempt to figure out what led him to the dark side. Upon their arrival, they were greeted by the entrance watchman, Tistura Pan. The Keldor woman explained that she wanted to test Luke in combat to see if he was the real Luke Skywalker and not an imposter, stating that she would have not a chance against the real Jedi Grand Master. But Luke knew the truth. It was a rival martial school tradition that if one were to venture to another's academy and ask to meet their masters, that they would need to prove their worth. However, if Luke decided to fight her himself, then he would be seen as stooping below someone's rank, therefore indicating that he was not equal to her master and did not deserve to learn or meet with them. To counter this, Luke said that she was not worth fighting him, so he ordered Ben to fight her instead. Ben, understandably, was baffled at the arrogance that he had never seen from his father, and during the fight, Luke kept his back turned to them and never once turned around until they were finished. After Ben won, Luke privately explained the old martial school tradition to him and why he had to act this way, and were met with the Baron Doe Sage Masters. There, they learned about what Jacen had learned, and while in their company, they themselves learned the ways of Hasat Dur, how to use electric judgment and conduct lightning. So in the answer to the question, what happened to the Baron Doe Sages after Order 66? Well, largely nothing. Their relative obscurity became a shield of safety against the eye of the Emperor, and they used their wisdom to keep it that way until the galaxy was a safe place to return to. They would then pass on their arcane knowledge to the future of the Jedi Order, where it would go on to be put to great use in the troubling eras that would follow. I believe that Plo Koon would be very proud. But of course, what do you think, my friends? And had you ever heard of the Baron Doe Sages? One of the only Force-based religions that managed to evade Darth Sidious, and the admittedly shocking reason why. But anyway, my friends, until next time, may the Force be with you, and have a phenomenal day.